Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the types of spin. Okay, there's actually 3 types of spin that you can put on a cricket ball. All right, so the first one is you'll be fairly familiar with is top spin. Okay, so putting top spin on the ball means that the ball is rotating towards the batsman. All right, so can you see that using my ball on a stick trick? Yeah, so the white line around the seam, that's rotating towards the batsman. So if I was the bowler, that's going to happen. And what's going to happen with top spin on the ball is that the ball is going to bounce more than it would if you didn't have that sort of rotation on the ball. All make sense? The opposite of top spin is back spin. So that's when the ball is rotating back towards me as the bowler. When that hits the ground, it's going to skip on. Okay, so rather than the top spin, which when it hits the ground is going to bounce, when the back spin hits the ground, that is going to drag backwards, it's going to scoot on, it's going to stay lower, and it's going to accelerate. Okay. Backspin is the type of spin that seam bowlers or fast bowlers will use because they want the ball to skip on forwards off of the pitch. Okay. The next easiest one is to do side spin. So side spin is when the ball, then me as the bowler, you guys as the batter, the side spin is now rotating the ball that way for a traditional right arm off spinner, or it's rotating the ball that way for the right arm leg spinner. Okay, so that's side spin, goes in both directions, but that's rotating across that axis. All of that probably stuff you've noticed before. You're all spin bowlers with a bit of experience. Okay, the one you might not be so familiar with is lateral spin. Lateral spin is when the ball spins that way or that way. Again, it goes in both directions, but this time the ball is rotating parallel to the pitch itself. Okay, we know that side spin, when it lands, is going to deviate to the side depending on which way it's spinning. It's going to turn away from the batsman or into the batsman, but that lateral spin is going to do a little bit of that, but it's also going to have some effect on the bounce as well. Okay, especially if you can get that lateral spin and the ball is also landing on the seam, so it's not rotating around the seam, it's rotating the other way around. Lands on, it's then going to have deviation off of the pitch, both in terms of its bounce and in terms of its sideways movement. Okay, so they are the 3 different types. So we've got top spin and back spin, which are in line with the pitch. We've got side spin in either direction, which take it sideways. And then we've got the barrel spin or the lateral spin, which then takes us away from the bat in either direction. All make sense? We've got some half and half balls. So half white, half red, you should be able to see nice and clearly when the ball is rotating properly, because it is going to be rotating along that axis. We've got some more balls with the white stripe around the middle, so you can really see the nice seam position. So if we were going lateral spin, we'd want to see that white stripe rotating around that way. And we've also got some flat balls. Okay, again, you want to get them rotating along the line of the flat bit, otherwise it's just going to hit the floor like a pancake. Okay, so 3 different things to try out there. We've got a couple of copies of each. What then we'll do, Brian and I will be your fielders. You guys can have a little bit of a bowl, all right, and we'll just see how you get on experimenting with the 3 ball types and experiment with those 3 types of spin. Okay. So we're going to talk about the different variations. Okay, we've just had a quick chat about the stock ball. We've said that that's going to be a combination of side spin and top spin at about a 45-degree angle. For a leg spinner, it's obviously going to go that way. For an off spinner, it's going to go that way. Okay. Now I've got down on my board, and as I'm going to show you in a sec, I've got down a list of 7 variations. Okay, one is shared between both bowling types, and then there's 3 for a wrist spinner and there's 3 for a finger spinner, regardless of whether you're left arm or right arm. We'll classify them as a wrist spinner and a finger spinner. Okay, so provided I get the right board, there's my list. Okay, so in about 15 minutes time you're going to be able to bowl all of them. Maybe. Alright, there's one you definitely can't. So we're going to talk about wrist spin first. Okay, so these are my 3 wrist spin variations. Top spinner is the one that's shared. Alright, so slider first. So the slider is exactly the same release as a leg spinner. So we've got our standard leg spinner, we know we're using the wrist, we know we're looking for that 45-degree spin. The slider is pushed right out the front of the hand and it's just side spin. Okay, so we've been experimenting with that a bit in the previous session. Okay, so just side spin, the wrist pushes the ball forwards and it's going to slide. It's going to have a little bit of deviation, but without the top spin, it's going to shoot forwards. Okay, so it's going to be a lower bouncing ball, but it's still going to have that side spin on in the direction of a leg spinner. Okay, so standard leg spin is going to have that 45-degree. The slider, just side spin, pushed out the front of the hand. All good? Googly. Googly is obviously the one for a wrist spinner that turns in the opposite direction. Okay, so my leg spinner comes out that 45 degrees. The googly is the one then that's delivered with the hand, back of the hand facing the bowler. The spin then is now going to be in the opposite direction because the hand's gone from that way round to that way round, and that's the googly that then turns into a right-hander as opposed to away from a right-hander. Okay. Flipper. All right, invented by Shane Wong, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago now. And the way that he describes the best way of practicing this one is to click your fingers. Okay, so it's that motion. So I'm clicking my middle finger, longest finger, which is obviously we know is the one that's in this position on the ball, and the thumb together. So that click position is going to snap those fingers together across the seam. Again, the ball is rotating on the seam. You deliver that with a wrist spin action, and it's going to be shooting forwards. Yeah, might be a little bit side spin, might be a little bit of top spin, but it's got a lot of spin revolutions on it with that flick motion. All make sense? Spoke a lot about wrist position already. Top spinner for a leg spinner. Obviously your leg spin is, hand is facing the batsman, releasing out 45-degree spin. We've spoken about the googly being all the way around. The top spinner is in between. So the flat of the hand, the back of the hand is going to be pointing out towards the offside. Top spinner comes around this way, and then that rotation is then going to be towards the batsman to deliver the top spin. Happy? Any questions? Got them all memorised? Maybe. Okay. So moving on to finger spin then. Top spinner we'll start with. That's the shared delivery. Okay. So a top spinner for the off spinner. It's just the other way around. So rather than having the wrist facing offside, the wrist is going to face leg side, and I'm going to get the ball rotating over the top of the finger so that the seam is pointing out towards the batsman. Okay, so it's a closing of the wrist here. Wrist stays flat, parallel to the lines going down the pitch, and the ball is going to rotate forwards towards the batter. Okay? Carom ball. Carom ball has come from South Asian culture where they're playing the carom. Okay, this is off spinner's action, off spinner's grip, but it's pushed out off of that ring finger. Okay, so I'm going to come round into a bowling position here, but rather than let the ball come out over the top of the first finger, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it out. I can't do it without letting go, but I'm going to push it out using that ring finger instead. Okay, so it's a little bit like a leg spinner's action, but delivered with an open hand. Make sense? Doosra is the one at the top that I haven't mentioned. It is not possible to bowl the doosra legally unless you've got certain genetic conditions in your arm that allows you to manipulate your shoulder and your elbow into funny angles. All right, so we'll have a bit of a go with it just for a bit of a laugh, but you can't bowl it legally unless you've got that hypermobility that the likes of Mauritius and the Sackclay Mushtaq had going back a few years. Okay, the doosra is like the off spinner's version of the googly. So rather than the hand coming round and being open, the hand comes round in the opposite position, and then it's going to roll. It's going to come out with the spin going this way off the top of the finger. The only way you can do it is by straightening the arm. Otherwise, you can't possibly get the ball to go down the other way. All right, okay. Last one, arm ball. The arm ball is the only variation we've discussed where I'm actually going to change my grip. So that's why it's fallen out a little fashion a little bit, because the sort of top level players are now reading it a lot easier. But the arm ball, I'm going to rotate the ball in my grip, still the off spinning grip, and it's going to come out off that first finger, just following the line of the seam. It's going to be delivered like a little gentle away swinger, like you would come off of a seam bowler. Okay, any questions, any of the finger spin variations? No? Happy? Should we go and have a go?